Well, I'm Steve Ajao, and it's pronounced Ajao, A-J-A-O. I'm 72 now. My dad came from Nigeria. My mum was English. My dad was a musician, and I was the firstborn. And after moving around a lot of rooms and things, living with them in a suitcase almost, like for the first few years of my life. Eventually, the council found us a lovely new place, a back-to-back house in Ladywood. So I lived there for the first 11 years of my life. It looked like something out of the Peaky Blinders. Black brick walls. Every brick was black throughout Birmingham and covered in soot. A lot of it was torn down by bombs. It's post-war, I suppose, like 7 years after the war I was born. There wasn't any money really to clear all the craters and things that were everywhere. And we used to play all over those when I was a kid and get told off for doing so all the time. We just played cowboys and Indians or war games amongst all the rubble and stuff. And then again, you'd find a drawer full of crockery or something untouched by the bombs. Take it home to your mum and she'd go, "You've been playing on that bomb site again, haven't you?" But, and that was really my childhood. I used to draw a lot. Other kids would be out there, I don't know, kicking a ball around or whatever, but I was more interested in drawing and that sort of thing, And my dad used to work nights, weekends. He'd go off with his band at various times. Sometimes they'd come and rehearse in the back-to-back house. And Andy Hamilton used to come around the house sometimes. A guy named Robinson, a few of these guys. They used to rehearse in my mum and dad's bedroom, which was just above the living room. So there was a drum kit up there, because my dad played drums in those days. He showed me how to play drums when I was a kid, and then he took to guitar. The guitar fascinated me as well. Whenever he was out, which was frequent because he was working nights, I'd get his guitar and start playing. My mum would go, no, you'll break a string, be careful, and I'd say, I'll be all right, and pop. I'd be in serious trouble with my dad, and then they eventually caved in and got me a new one, a little tiny acoustic guitar, which recently I was playing in the trumpet in Bilston. They had that very same model guitar was hanging over the bar. It's just like they had all this bric-a-brac in there hanging all over the place, musical instruments. So they said, well, if you can get it off the wall, it's yours, So that was my first contact with the guitar. The other thing I should say, I suppose, is when I was a kid as well, the instrument that was most prominent in the records at the time, my dad had a lot of the American records and stuff. And the records they were all into, were like Louis Jordan and stuff like that. But of course, it was all saxophone, really. It wasn't. The guitar was like just a sort of kind of rhythm instrument. Apart from the deeper blues things, which he had a whole lot of, which I was fascinated by. So I was kind of more interested in the guitar as a lead instrument. I used to hear the saxophone coming out of the records. That used to kill me, I said, Dad, I'd love one of those. And he'd go, no, don't. Just stick with your guitar, see if that's cheaper, it's like buying a house, he said, And, but in my head, when I was playing the guitar, I was hearing the sax, if you know what I mean. I was kind of playing what I heard on record, playing sax lines on my guitar. So that's really how I just sort of began just chasing that kind of smoke or something. So that's what I did, and in between drawing and stuff like that. That was my trip to another world. Mostly scenes from films I used to get taken to see, and they recognised that at school. I spent more time at school painting the walls with scenery and stuff, like in the assembly hall. They want biblical scenes and stuff. And I was excused all the other subjects because when I got to school, I could already read anyway, because my mum was very literate. And there was nothing to do when I was a kid but read, really. I mean, we didn't have a TV till I was, getting on for 9 or whatever. But eventually my dad thought, no, I'm going to modernise this house. And he went out and got a Bush TV. I got a picture of him switching it on, this big old valve TV. It's funny, the 50s were a great time. It was great staying up late. Watch the dot disappear.
Oh, the
Queen's going, the dot's going, it's going. They were pulling them down all around us, cleaning people out of the so-called slums and shoving them into high-rise blocks. A village in the sky, community in the air. Well, my mum dug her foot in, she said, we're not moving into one of those, we want a house. And eventually they gave us a house, which was near Moseley Art School, where I'd been accepted to go because of my drawing skills. I passed the art exam and I ended up at Moseley Art School, which was really good because first days there coincided with like the advent of the Rolling Stones, and they'd just entered the charts. You'd have even more credence, you know, if you play a guitar, you know, which I could, you know, by then. And somebody managed to get a telephone mouthpiece from a smashed up phone box. They got a lead attached to it and attached that to the arm of a record player. And of course, it went through the school record player.
So like an amplifier?
Yes, I knew. And everyone I could hear this blues. I was thinking, oh man, you know, that sounds good, you know. And they gave me a go on it. And they went, wow, man, where did you learn? Yeah, I told them about my dad's record collection. And one or two of them had come round to the house, you know. They were knocked out by my dad's guitars, which were like Fenders and stuff and amps and things, you know. Oh, it was still fabulous, you know. And I love art. Sculpture, printmaking and all that sort of stuff. My painting, I didn't realise it, but I was colourblind. But I still passed all the art exams with it. Still got through. But it used to take me ages to sort of work out a colour, you know, something, you know. Pretty soon, I was asked to join my dad's band by other members of his band.
But not him.
No, he didn't even want me doing art, you know. Like, why don't you look at Jim's son? He's just bought his mum and dad a fridge, and there you are going to art college and hanging out with, doing all these things. You know, you should be ashamed, you know. Yeah. And so they bought me a guitar anyway to join the band, an electric guitar, which is great. I played with them all over Handsworth, you know, which was where the gig scene was, all the black scene. You know, that's what we were doing. We were like playing, you know, reggae, rocksteady and stuff, blue beat and all that kind of thing. Long before all this kind of, you know, two-tone and ska, you know, real ska, you know.
Yeah.
So we were playing all those tunes, you know, to people who loved it, and, you know, and that's where my instinct, you know, listening to sax players all my life, you know, I'd try and play what a sax player would play over it then, you know, over a reggae tune. Oh, and I can look back on those times as well, because I used to play with some of the other bands. I was often poached into other bands or other projects with people. So I played with like Laurel Aitken, you know, the hit with that. Boy, pussy price gone up. One time you get it for 50 cents. Now if you find a pussy, you can't pay the rent. It was great, man. It was great. And he became a skinhead favourite because the skinheads were all pouncing on reggae first. You know, they were the first to pick up on it. But he'd get me in the studio and I'd have to spend all day in the studio with him. He goes, Stevie, brush me some reggae. Brush me some chords, man. You know, and I'll say, what do you want? He'd play it on the piano, and I'd go, just play it on the guitar. What he would, yeah, man, yeah, do it. You know, do it, yeah, and he'd record me like that. He'd do it, let's brush another one, man, you know, start on another one, you know. A little bit like the other one, but, you know, slight different changes, whatever. And there's no vocals on them. Yeah. I couldn't hear anybody else on them, you know. Yeah, that's it, man, you know, give me a fiver or whatever, you know. That's great, you know, it just put all the rest on there. Yeah, you know what I mean, yeah? Yeah, I mean, those were the things that people wanted to hear when we went out to all the different clubs, you know, like the Ridgeway, Monty, you know, Santa Rosa. You know, all the people there would like to get up and dance to that. A lot of time the material was also like country and western, really, you know, like, but with the reggae beat. Yeah, put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone. Yeah, like in some of the clubs, you know, they'd be like Black and Irish, Hank Williams, all those guys. My dad had a whole load of those albums, you know, for the songs and the lyrics, you know, and stuff. He could hear the chords, he could read music, my dad, but none of the other guys in the band could half the time. I was the voice on BR&B. Steve Ajao on BR&B, Job Seeker or whatever it was, on 233-2020. So I did that for a couple of years. I was a printer. That gave me the opportunity to meet various writers and people. You know, this guy was writing a book. I had to do 54 drawings for it. And I got paid like, again, it was good money in those days. Nearly 500 quid, you know. So I just went straight to the music shop and bought my first saxophone. And I used to practice at work with it. I used to use the machine as a metronome, you know. Carry it everywhere. Played it everywhere I could. That became my general sort of, I just locked myself away doing that for ages. I'd already started family life, if you like, with my own family stuff, you know, like with my son Rico. But I was just permanently upstairs, just blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. You know, whenever I wasn't working, I was doing that, you know, threw myself into it, you know. Yeah. I could fill that chest of drawers, you know, with paper that's written down, you know, like exercise this and all things written down, different keys, phrases. And I had to do all that. I wanted to play properly. I didn't want to just play one riff or something like some people who made a lot of money out of the saxophone did, you know. I couldn't do that. But anyway, that was my goal then. And then shortly after that, Thatcher, she didn't like the way some of the schools were being run. She thought they were too lefty, you know. A new education drive was on. And this headmaster of the school was replaced by some, you know, mutton chops. You know, yeah. Look at this room. It looks like the room of a man whose morale is gone. I said, what on earth are you on about? So there's prints, there's paper everywhere, printing and oiling rags. I said, I'm just rebuilding these machines, if you don't mind. And he kept coming in, moaning at me, you know. I've really had enough of this guy. So he came in one day, and he goes, Ajao, right, where's my work? I said, well, it's about number 30-something now. Be patient, it'll be done soon. This is preposterous. I said, anyway, I'll tell you what, why don't you do it yourself? I put my hat on and my coat, you know. Where are you going? I said, that's it, I'm off. I said, by the way, I'm owed 2 weeks annual leave as well. And he was going, no, I just walked out. You know. I was sitting in my house a couple of days later, and I got a call from Gus Williams. Joe's in charge of ACAFES, you know. He really believed in cultural development, you know, the Afro and Asian communities. And he went, hi, is that Steve? And I said, yeah, it's me, Gus Williams. I said, oh, all right, Gus, how you doing? Yeah. So, and he told me about ACAFES, and he said, can you read music and teach it? I said, yeah, of course, you know, no problem. Oh, that's fantastic. We need somebody to run the music department. I said, fabulous. And he told me the salary, which was like twice what I was getting as a printer, you know, flexible hours, you know. So I just got that job, and I did that for a few years, nurturing people's talent. And that became my job, and it was great because I was practicing myself. I did, yeah, now and again, but he regarded me as some kind of rival, though, because I remember once he said, I don't want to put him down or anything like that. I wouldn't do that. He came up to me one day and he said, see, man, you can come to me for lesson, you know. What kind of sax you want to play? I said, I like bebop, you know, Charlie Parker. I'm studying a lot of him at the moment. You know, what? Charlie Parker? He played all that foolishness. He said he played all them wrong notes. He said he tried to run before he could walk. We talking about the same bloke. I said, well, yeah, I'll take my chances, man, you know what I mean? And I mean, whenever I saw him, all he was doing was playing like, I don't know, Little Brown Jug, like Glenn Miller numbers. Da, 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 da. You know, like I was thinking, no, man. Some guy summed it up once, and they said to him, Andy, you're out of tune. When he was complimenting Art Farmer, he got Art Farmer to play with him all the way from the States. He had all these special guests each week, and Art Farmer didn't pull any punches, man. He said, yeah, that was a good gig, wasn't it? He went, no, man. He said, you were out of tune all the way through it. Oh, it's them new saxophone. He was going, it's a new song, and it's not like me old one. He said, no, man. A bad workman blames his tools. And he just walks out.
Wow.
I was there when he said that. I thought, well. So I'd jam with him occasionally. But anyway, I got teaching there. So I was playing there on a Friday night as well with my quartet. And he played there, I don't know, was it Saturday or something? I don't know. I did that for years. When ACAFES folded anyway, you know, after that, I've just been sort of jobbing around playing various quartets and things. The Red Lion, Ladypool Road. Yeah. I played with Red Rodney from Charlie Parker's original quartet, you know. Shortly after I learned the sax, about 3 years afterwards, I was playing jazz down in Brighton with him, you know. And various places. I met Ronnie Scott and played there. Courtney Pine, a few guys, you know. Played with them. I played the jazz scene in London for a while, you know. There I am now, still looking for a gig. Unfortunately, they're really thin on the ground now. I mean, there's the Hare and Hounds, you know, which is great, you know. It's live music there most weekends. And I like the Blues Club there. I used to be a founder member of that when it was at the Bull. Myself and Dylan. Then Adam got the Hare and Hounds. I also love JoJo gyms and places like that, you know, in Birmingham. You know, Joe's done a good job of, you know, putting live music on virtually every night of the week. The Tower of Song, you know, that's still going. Yeah, all these wonderful things, you know, Jazzman's, you know, that's another place. But there aren't many others. It used to be bristling with places. I mean, you could easily make a living going from pub to pub, place to place, you know.